Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the For the Doers podcast. Happy Monday. We are back today with the wonderful and talented Janis and the beautiful Julia Nettles Bay. She's talented too.
She's very talented.
Whatever.
Okay. We'll go past the obvious inside jokes here, but especially my trying to make Julia laugh. But good times. I'm here with these two wonderful friends of mine. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful for the audience that's here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can hear all of these great conversations that we've been having that are very timely. And speaking of timely, today we are speaking of boundaries. Again, I know we've spoken about boundaries before, but it is such a fertile subject these days. So we're gonna just dig right in. Before we got on, Julia was expressing about when she goes back to work, how she will, I'll let you say it yourself, but how you will basically use your boundaries, what types of boundaries you'll have, what you've learned from your past experience that will be different now. So what would you like to say about that, Julia?
Well, as I go through the process of interviewing and determining which company and what have you and all that other good stuff, my thought pattern is, wow, how do I create boundaries, and how do I follow through on those to make sure that I'm really, as you stated, protecting myself. And that is the question of questions for me, because I think I can set up a boundary, but am I going to keep it? And in a workplace, it's one thing to say something to your colleague or your peer or your, the people who report into you, but it's another thing to say to your boss, I need to leave at such and such a time because of X, Y, Z. And I have in the past just powered through. I would just work. And I would work on my days off. I would do all sorts of crazy things that were to my detriment. And now I recognize the importance of taking time to maintain my own self. So my question of questions is, how am I going to do that? I had read this book called The 5 a.m. Club, and this morning I was thinking at 7:30 when I woke up, I'm like, oh, see, this is where that 5 a.m. club thing may come in handy so that I can get everything done before I go to work. But yeah, that is the question of questions for me, because I want to still be free to do all of the things that I have learned that are good for me physically and mentally to do to maintain myself.
Yeah, that makes total sense, especially to me. I'm thinking the same way right now. Everything that I've learned helps me to know that I will definitely go back to whatever new job I go to in a different way. I'm still going to be myself, but I have to be myself. But I don't know. I feel like, Julia, like I feel the same way. And I know that it's up to me to set those boundaries up immediately, not just with the people that I work with, but with myself, you know, because I've been free range for 7 months. And I think a lot of that is like, how do you see things playing out for yourself? And the funny thing is, for me, this is seems completely different, but this is almost like manifesting in a way. Because if you want to make things happen, and this has nothing to do with magic, if you want to make things happen, you have to set boundaries within yourself. You know, and for me, setting the boundaries with myself is so much harder than it is for doing it with other people. It's so much easier for me to be like, I'm peacing out, you know, to whoever. But it's harder for me to say, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. for anything. You know, even if I'm supposed to and I need that time, that's gonna be like, what, 5 a.m. who?
It's still dark out.
I'll be snoring at 5 a.m. I can tell you that, unless I have to be somewhere at 7. But that's just, again, setting the boundaries for yourself is incredibly difficult, you know, and accomplishing things requires setting boundaries as a doer. Now we're going to see what Janis's take is on this subject.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's definitely it's discipline.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's okay, I'm going to stick to it. And it's so interesting, Julia, like hearing you speak about when you go back to the workforce, like what that looks like and how you want to kind of preserve all the good that you've done in regards to a morning routine, a night routine, and having all these systems in place that make you feel so good that you're like, no. And you said it earlier before we recorded, that kind of creating that foundation for your day is going to be huge, because it puts you in that headspace mentally to perform how you need to perform. I'm of the mind, like it's a little different, but anytime I come down to California and I see my family, like there is zero boundaries. There is zero boundaries. But it's interesting. And I don't know why I drew that parallel. Well, probably because like there's zero like the fear of zero boundaries at work. Well, I have like zero boundaries with my family. But doing the things that are like the non-negotiables for you. So let's say like if working out every morning is like you have to do it because that's going to give you the mental clarity, that becomes a non-negotiable. So it's like, okay, if that means waking up at 5 a.m. and doing it, you get it done anyways, because you're like, well, I know the end result's going to be better, or I know the end result's going to allow me to perform how I need to perform. And I think kind of, I know you're a planner and a doer in that sense, where it's like you prioritize the things that are important to you, and kind of the end result that they're going to achieve, and the end result that will help you achieve. So I kind of approach it in a way where it's like, okay, what are the non-negotiables and what are the nice to haves and what can I do away with? Because then it becomes and trust. Like this is it's so much easier to like spew it out and it sounds all lovely. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hold on to my morning routine that takes 2 hours. And it's like, what time are we waking up? At 3 a.m. The moon's still out. But being realistic too, where it's it's a non-negotiable for certain things. And the same thing with work. If working on the weekend is a non-negotiable for you, or working like off hours, because I know also like the lack of boundaries is also a one-way ticket to burnout.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because you're burning candles at all ends, like top, bottom, and sideways.
All ends.
Right. But I think that's my biggest thing is like, okay, what will I absolutely will not compromise, that I'm going to like stick to it and that's my thing. Or and I think there's a lot of freedom in that too, where it's like if you allow yourself these non-negotiables, certain boundaries that you've set up for yourself, it also allows for like the good, like the flexibility in the middle to happen.
Right.
Mhm, mhm. I like it. I like the idea of the non-negotiables and then the nice to haves, in terms of thinking about it in that way, because as you know, I am a planner, list writer, and so I will be.
I wrote that as notes,
on it.
especially for you, because I was like, oh, God, put it into a note for it, like structural. Like Julia does well with structure.
Yes, I will be journaling and saying, okay, these are my non-negotiables, and these are my nice to haves. And I think the other thing is, to your point, Sayda, is saying them up front, walking in the door. And
Yes.
I mean, I am very conscious, and maybe to a fault, of how people view and perceive.
Could you try again?
Sorry.
Bye, Siri.
How people perceive me or my intentions or what have you. So I do want to have the conversation. I think it's important to have the conversation so that people know what my expectations are, and know what to expect from me. Because I think that I definitely within the work parameters, I'm giving 120%. When I'm there, I'm there. I am focused. I have a tone. I mean, if I have to take a personal call, and the only person I'm taking that personal call from is my husband, if he calls me, he knows that I have a tone, because I am in work mode.
Yes.
I am totally, I'm zeroed in on that task. So if once I come out of that, I just need to figure out how to dial it down, but I have to dial it down. And that's the thing. I have to figure out a way to dial it down, and take care of myself and my loved ones during that time period. So it's just having that conversation. I think it's a good way to level set, so that we're all on the same page. And here's the thing. If I had children, this would be really easy. Because I've seen people with children say this, yeah, I need to pick up my son at 5, and so on and so forth. Now, internally, what my as a boss person, my thought pattern is, okay, and I'm a woman, and I'm okay. So here's the schedule. These are the parameters that we need to work within. So you're telling me that you need to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, okay, let's see if we can work that in. But we are talking about a business, and I get that you have these responsibilities outside of the workplace. So let's see if we can make these work. But like I said, when someone has a family, I get it. But I don't have children at home waiting for me to pick them up. So I just need to reel in the fact that my life counts too. The fact that I want to go home and do X, Y, Z, whatever X, Y, Z is, that's my business, and I need to be able to do that.
Yep. And that's the setting boundaries for yourself, because nobody else is going to do it for you.
No.
You know, in your work, everyone will be like, oh, all right, she's working, so let's do this thing. And even, but I think it even applies to, you know, your personal life, obviously, too. I was like Janis, like I realized the other day that like I have boundaries with my phone. Okay. My phone is where I put the biggest boundaries on, because there are days that I will not answer my phone now. I put my phone aside. It's only for a couple of hours or whatever if I'm focused on something. Now, when my father was alive, that didn't happen. That was the one person that I kept my phone on for. And now that he's not around, you know, I have taken all of that back, even with my siblings or whoever else I related to, and I turn my phone off sometimes because I need that peace.
Mhm.
And I need to focus, which is not easy for me. I am like the queen of ADD, put the crown on me because I am the queen of it. Which is also, it's me protecting my peace too, because I know myself. You know, if I see one of my friends on that phone, it's like, I got to pick it up, but I also have to do this thing. And I always want to just do and help and all of that. And that goes the same with my setting my 5 goals for myself. And that's it. And I don't touch anything else until I have completed those goals, or those goals are like on autopilot, because I know myself, my first generation American psyche with being a worker and just being, you know, the person that makes things happen and all of that is what burns me out. Mm-hmm. Because I'm trying to do too much. And it's hard setting those boundaries sometimes, because I would much rather, you know, chat on the phone than doing some of the more difficult things like taxes. And I know myself, and I know I'll start having a conversation so that I won't start doing the taxes or, you know, going through paperwork or whatever. But that's me finally in my maturity setting those boundaries, because I'm thinking about myself in the future, who's going to have to deal with me not being prepared right now. And also the burnout, you know, because you're just trying to do all of it and you can't always do all of it, and you have to rest.
I want to speak to, it's so interesting, like hearing you and Julia speak about like the boundaries and like telling people, like, oh, I'm going to leave work at XYZ time, or, you know, the boundaries you have with your phone, like I'm not going to be 100% available to you at all hours of the day. But on the flip side of that, like when you are available and when you are present, like you're 150% in it.
Yeah.
So I think that's really a cool alternate view of it, because everybody sees boundaries as so restrictive and, oh, you're just putting up all this fencing that I can't, like, there's no, it's like you're putting yourself on an island, and you're like, no, really, these boundaries are going to help me be better to rise up to meet the occasions.
Right.
Because you're in that mindset where you're not just like going through the motions, you're present, you know, you're ready to, whether it be work or engage with like friends or family, like it's 110% on. Like you're like, no, I've dedicated this time for this, like let's talk, let's catch up. It's not like checking your phone, checking your emails. It's, you know, and it's almost nice too when the people around you recognize those efforts too.
Oh yeah.
Because it like compounds on itself, right? Like, you know, you have coworkers who are like, okay, we're focused, we're in it. We're not checking our phones or taking personal phone calls. So we're here to get these projects done or meet deadlines, you know, things like that. So it's interesting, like the opposite side of the coin is also, you know, while boundaries sound so restrictive, it also is such like to your future employers, ladies, it's like, well, you know, when I'm on and I'm ready to work, like you will get 200% of a person. Like, here we are, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't hesitate now that I'm used to it, because it takes a while to get used to setting your boundaries, especially at work, you know. But now that I'm used to it, it is freedom. It is, because I know, like you said, Janice, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to give 200% or more. Like, I'm in it to win it. Like, I love to win. Let's do this thing. But when I need my rest, babu, you know what I mean? Like, I need to stay good. I need to stay in form. And I think that that's what I couldn't say that 2 years ago. I wasn't in that headspace 2 years ago, but I am now. It's like, I know what I bring to the table. And I also know, you know, in my experience, if I get to be the same age that my dad was, if I get to 84, what do I want to look back on? I think about that all the time now. What do I want to look back on? Do I want to look back at myself running around like a chicken with my head cut off and not getting things accomplished and not building relationships, you know, and being healthy, you know, enough to, and strong enough, and all of that takes balance, and we're the only ones that can do it for ourselves, because nobody else will.
It's so true. It's so true. When you put it into that perspective, I just think about what I wish for myself and for everyone. And in terms of looking back on things, it's not how well I did the job or what my job was or how much money I made or how quickly I rose up or what was my title. At the end of the day, what I want to look back on is what I want right now. And that's to be healthy, to be happy, to have peace of mind, and to have an abundance of all things good. I want that for myself. I want that for all of you. I want that for everyone. And how I go about that is the question of questions. But there's so many ways I can go about that. And that's the beautiful thing about it. You know,
I love that.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, there's your answer. On how you set your boundaries. I mean, you just have to, and I think that's where the focus comes in. And that's why I brought up manifesting too, because people think of manifesting as just looking in the mirror. And like I said before, oh, I'm going to marry, I don't know, who's a good one?
Jason Momoa. He's Jason always Momoa. A good one.
You know, I can say that 50 times in the mirror, but it's not going to happen. I got to get out there. This sounds familiar. I know we've said this before.
You have to do your part.
But you have to do your part, and you have to get out there the way you know how, which is, you know, authenticity. And authenticity takes boundaries too. When you think about it, you know, really knowing what you want. This is all the stuff that we always talk about. It's like knowing what you want, because you know you were raised in a certain way, and a lot of your views and opinions come from that. But as you get older, and I don't know, I think we should set those boundaries for ourselves to be like, hey, mom, you know what? Like, this is how I think now. And this is what makes me happy. Those are also, you know, boundaries that you set. or, you started a business and your brother or sister says, hey, can I get 10 of those? And, of a product that you're selling, like, this is where you set your boundaries. Like, I am starting a business and no one will do that for you, set those boundaries for you and say, oh, you have a business, let me pay you for that. It's all up to us, to care for ourselves, because then other people see what we're doing and they're like, all right, this is how, and this is what I have always said, one of my favorite lessons, and I always say that to my teams when I'm leading, is you are the one that tells people how to treat you, period. You're the one. Don't get mad, don't be a hater at the guy that gets what he wants, because he's clearly asking for what he wants and behaving in a way that he gets what he wants. So that's up to each of us to do that for ourselves. Right? How do you feel about that, Julia?
I agree. I think that it is important for us to ask and make it known what it is that we want. No one's going to know otherwise. And I think that it will be, there will be a level of respect for those people who do walk in the door saying, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm willing to give, and this is what I would like in return. How do you feel about that? It's a conversation.
Right. At least having the conversation. I didn't have that conversation years ago. Never did. And just went along with whatever was given to me because I was just grateful to get a job, or whatever else is similar to that. But it's all on you.
It's true. We cannot expect people to just give us what it is that we want without asking for it.
Yeah.
Yes. Janis?
Different things.
Yeah, exactly.
What's important to me may not be important to you.
And that's okay. I think it's, but at the same time, like, I think it calls for a little bit of kindness and lack of judgment.
Woo!
Which sometimes is not always an easy pill to swallow, but like, like I don't have children either, but to not be okay with me wanting to take an afternoon off or do something because oh, well, I have kids and I'm doing it. And it's like, great, that's awesome. Like, kudos to you. But just because I don't have something or don't, fall into a specific category, it doesn't lessen any of it. It's just
right.
At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all, people doing the best we can, doing, what's important to us, trying to live our best lives also. So, that looks different for everybody, which is awesome. At the same time, it's like, it should never be, in my mind's eye, it should never be considered less than just because my plan doesn't look the same as your plan.
Exactly.
That's the biggest point I think to make here is like, you're an individual, no matter what box you get put into, like, you have your own, you stand up for yourself, and what you need. Because it doesn't mean that someone else gets more than you. They're getting it because they're asking for it. That's my bottom line, is like, they're getting it because they're asking for it. You should ask for it, whether you have kids or not, whether some people are caretakers, like I've been that too, which that also changed my perspective. being a caretaker to an elderly person, which happens to a lot of people a little bit younger than me, a little bit older than me, you never know if or that or when that'll happen. And that's where the kindness and empathy comes in, to people have lives. Live it. Don't get like, I am getting out of the brainwash of like, you got to go 1000% all the time. You got to be a strong Black Latina, and that whole thing is like, I'm not buying into all of that anymore. I'm going to be the one who does what she wants to do and lives authentically and asks for what she wants. And it's not easy getting past all of those things, you know what I mean, that you've been taught, and just being like, I'm just going to do me.
It really isn't easy, because I'm laughing because of a conversation that I had with my husband when we were planning a trip, and he said, well, we're going to need 20 days, Jules. And I'm like, I can't take 20 days off. I can't be away from work for 20 days. It's like, Jules, you're not employed. You don't have a job at the moment. I'm like, but I will. I can't do that. What do we? He said, that's the mentality that we're trying to combat.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm like, oh my God, I can't, no.
Let it go.
I'm taking 20 days. And going away. And I do anticipate that I will have a job by then or before then, and I'll have to have that conversation to state that. So I planned a trip. I will be away for 20 days.
Yep.
What do I need to pack? What time are we leaving for the airport?
Right?
But that is just that mindset. I'm like, oh, I have lost my flippant mind. There's that work ethic right there.
But at some point we need to let the girl boss go and just be me. Just be yourself. Just be you, do you, and be happy. Because this is, if we have the grace of living another 20, 30 years, this is what you want to look back on, is that time that you said, you know what, I'm going to take 20 days and I'm taking it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And on that note, wow, what a great conversation, because this is what I don't know, I think a lot of us these days have been having these conversations about these boundaries and how we want to work, what we want to look like at work, as leaders and professionals and doers, because doers are the ones that have to have this conversation more than anyone else. Let it go.
Oh my God, can we put the song on it?
I know. I saw Snoop Dogg on Instagram listening to Let It Go. I'm like, yes, there you go. I always try to take screenshots of things that'll make me laugh. That's one screenshot I need.
That's hilarious.
Well, thank you so much, Janis, Julia. A great conversation with my friends, as always. I love your input, and I love that we come from different directions, and but we're all trying to say the same thing, I think, and achieve the same thing, which is wonderful. Thank you to everyone who listened to our conversation. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for all of the subscribers. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Have a fantastic and productive week. Have a great Monday. Thank you, everybody. Bye.